Why do we all want to be famous? Well, there is an actual reason for this. Behind every adult screaming for the world to notice them is actually a kid still waiting for their parents to look up.
I saw this School of Life quote recently which really struck a chord with me. You know you've had a happy childhood if you don't want to be famous. This got me really thinking that if you've grown up feeling seen, emotionally mirrored, and safe and secure in your identity, then you don't need a million strangers to acknowledge your existence.
This is a very painful mirror to look into. It suggests that fame does not simply becomes a career choice, it actually becomes a compensation strategy.
Michael Jackson became the most recognized human being on the planet and yet spent his adulthood trying to rebuild the childhood he never got to live. Marilyn Monroe was desired by the entire world and wrote that she felt like a projection and not a person. David Bowie kept creating new identities because being himself never felt survivable.
Psychologically, this relates to narcissistic supply. When a child doesn't receive the consistent validation from their caregivers, they grow into seeking it from a Microsoft, the public, to fill that macro void left by the family unit.
The unhappy creative child grows up thinking that fame will fix that hole inside of them, but it never seems to do so. This video is not about fame, it's trying to decode why anyone would want to be famous in the first place. It's about that timeline which turns a sensitive child into an adult which needs the public gaze to stabilize a sense of rejection which never seems to go away. I've spent my whole life, perhaps unsuccessfully, trying to be known and be acknowledged. And in today's video, I'm trying to understand why this feeling exists at all.
Of course, this feeling actually exists. This resonates so much. You become a performer because you realize that being just you isn't enough. So to keep the peace and to get a hug, you have to be the talented one, the funny one, the best, just to earn your place so that you can be seen.
Chapter 1. When Love Becomes Conditional. We assume that the child who wants fame must have been deeply ambitious from childhood. But weirdly enough, I think nothing could be further from the truth. This child is actually a highly sensitive child. The kind of child who feels everything too deeply, who reads emotional shifts in a room instantly, who connects to music or images or even words in a way that seems physical. Linda Silverman's work on highly creative children shows the same cognitive baselines again and again. Heightened sensitivity, extreme empathy, and early self-awareness. This, in the right environment, becomes a gift. But when this nervous system develops inside an environment where love is conditional and attention is inconsistent, where differences are not understood but in fact called weird or even mocked, this person's internal wiring starts to get attached to performance. This comes directly from John Bowlby's attachment theory.
Well, with this surely, if a child develops an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, they often feel like they must perform to ensure that they aren't abandoned, so they don't feel accepted in the first place. So they tried so hard to perform something so that they can be actually accepted.
Later expanded through the strange situation studies by Mary Ainsworth, the child learns, I am valued when I do something exceptional. In a performance-based environment, this child starts thinking that they need to be exceptional in order to receive love. You can see this in Stevie Wonder being a child prodigy before he was even a teenager. The applause came before the identity even formed. The world tells you what you are worth based on what you can do. And this is the moment I feel this equation forms quietly and permanently. Who I am equals what I can do.
Well, imagine the pressure of the world telling you who you are before you even get the chance to decide it yourself. When the applause comes first, the true self often goes hidden because the performer is the only thing that gets fed.
Who I am equals what I can do and what I can give. And this child starts to grow up with one mission. I will become impossible to overlook. Chapter 2. the outsider and the inner world. There's a phase which arrives relatively early on in highly creative children, which is when they start to realize that their inner world is way more intense than the environment they're in. And this starts to develop into social isolation from an early age. Miraka Gross's research shows that the greater the inner complexity of a child, the harder it becomes for them to find friends or people to relate to in their immediate peer group.
The researcher mentioned here found that children with exceptional high IQs or creative capacities often faced false choices. They either forced to lower themselves to act dumb with friends, with other peers, so that they can fit in, or either they need to pretend more than who they are so that they can fit in. These are all the problems that most of us had how we were in high school, maybe we were in primary school, so that we tried to do a lot only to fit in, because we always seemed like we had this need to be seen.
Imagine Freddie Mercury growing up as Farrokh Bulsara, culturally displaced and visually and internally a different boy. And that's where he started developing Freddie. When he realized that he as himself didn't fit into the world he belonged in, he started forming an identity which could perhaps move through it. It's a survival and a self-defense mechanism if you think about it.
Image of self-defense. He creates the shield to survive the world. Sometimes those shields are what people start to love the most. So you yourself stays hidden behind a mask, behind this kind of shields which people usually falls in love with, and you have no other option than continue to always perform, because once your performance is finished, you are still that kid who is still unseen.
This is the moment where you start editing yourself to fit into an image which you think might be more acceptable on the outside. You try to lower your intensity and hide what you love. You start becoming hyper aware of how you're perceived, and everything that you perceive as a flaw in you starts to become a problem. I think every person who's ever tried to become famous has a deep problem with their own self-image, and this is because their inner worth comes from outer approval. And at this point of time, your inner and outer timelines and worlds start to separate. Your outer life becomes functional while your inner world remains real, and everything you build from here on is an attempt to reconnect.
Because at this point you realize that you are more than who you are, and there are a lot in you that other people cannot see, and you realize that your inner world is actually bigger than the external world.
Chapter 3, the I'll show them engine. By the time adolescence hits, this inner feeling of not being seen or understood turns into a kind of propulsion engine. This is where the work ethic, the perfectionism, and the obsessive tendencies we see a lot of famous people possessing.
This is the chip on the shoulder mentality. It's terrifyingly effective well source, but it's toxic. If you are running on I'll show them engine, always doing something just to prove yourself so that you can be seen, you can be accepted, you can be seen as the funniest one, the best child with good grades and everything, well, it doesn't last forever, because the moment you stop, you are just the unseen kid again.
Possessing start to appear. What looks like hunger and obsession to the outer world is psychologically just compensation for an inner wound which just seems to get bigger. Psychologically, this was explained by Alfred Adler's theory of compensation. When a person fundamentally feels inferior or unseen, they build excellence in another domain to rebuild their self-worth.
The Alfred Adler theory of compensation suggests that we strive for superiority, specifically in areas where we feel the sense of organ inferiority or social lack.
So the drive may not be I want success. It might just be I refuse to be invisible. Think of Madonna arriving in New York with nothing and refusing to disappear. And her every reinvention and every era, every escalation is that same nervous system trying to stabilize itself through recognition and a refusal to be ignored. While you may fool yourself thinking that you're in the pursuit of greatness, what you're actually attempting to achieve is a sense of inner stability that you might have never known. And it works for a couple of minutes or so. Every milestone gives you relief, and every achievement gives you a temporary sense of existence. But because your sense of internal validation is coming from external metrics, it fades quicker than it arrives. Which is why this phase, I think, never seems to plateau or end. Nothing ever seems to fill that void inside.
Of course, because that void inside is something that you try to fill by not being yourself. You start asking yourself, what will get me seen? What will make people start seeing me? What will make people start appreciating me? Because growing up, you never had that kind of attention or consistent validation. So you feel like you always need people's approval. And these are all kinds of insecurities actually start from this. And then while growing up, you may want to be famous because you want to be seen and by the world, because you want this void to be filled up. But the truth is that you cannot fill the void without being yourself, and the void can only be filled the moment you start asking yourself, what do I like to do? Instead of asking and always trying to satisfy people's expectations.
And this void has existed for as long as you remember. Chapter 4, the validation addiction. Funnily enough, if you've done everything correctly, by the time you're an adult, this loop closes and suddenly you have an audience. And psychologically, I think this audience becomes an attachment figure.
As someone who is on this platform, I will say you make a video and the video will get views. You feel like you're getting the attention that you need, but you make a second one and the second one totally flops, and then you start to feel like you are unseen. You start to see like people are not seeing your hard work and everything, the energy that you've been putting into your videos. So please smash that subscribe button if you want to help me, and don't forget to click on the thumbs up so that you can let this video be seen by more other people. And then once you see that other video flops, you start over again because you want to be seen. And when you want to be seen, you need to find new different way, new different ideas, new videos, and etc.
Jennifer Crocker's work on contingent self-worth shows that when identity is built through external validation, self-esteem becomes unstable and addictive. You're only okay when you are being seen. Kurt Cobain is the clearest example of what happens when recognition arrives but the internal structure doesn't change. He had total visibility and total cultural impact, but his private sense of disconnection got worse the more famous he got. It did not seem to heal, it did not seem to get better. Because fame only rewards your persona, which is the outer shell you've created to interface with the world. But it does nothing to heal the person inside, because that person inside has always felt worthless. The person inside feels that their sense of self-worth comes from metrics, from numbers, from views, from streams, from followers, from money. And this becomes like a drug you're addicted to.
The Jennifer Crocker's research on their contingent self-worth showed that people who base their value on external markers like grades, popularity, have much more higher rates in depression and anxiety than those with the internalized self-worth. Because you yourself inside, you know that you are not seen. You don't feel that you are worth it. Because your parents, your caretakers, they did not give you that self-worth which you needed. So you start seeking something like that from viewers, from clicks, from likes, from comments, and all that kind of stuff.
And like every drug ever, it creates more damage to your soul than ever fixing it. Each spike in metrics calms your body, and every drop escalates your sense of worthlessness. And this is because you learned early on that attention equals connection. And without attention, you yourself have forgotten who you are. I think fame cannot solve this attachment wound, which is why some of the most visible people in history have still felt unseen.
Yeah, and you can take Justin Bieber and other celebrities as an example that they have everything that they want. They have the attention, the money, and everything. But there is always that void from childhood, which affects most of these celebrities.
They have still felt unseen. The only way out of the loop. Sometimes I sit and think, what is the real thing a creative life needs? And I'm not sure the answer that we are seeking lies in the transition from being unknown to becoming famous. I think it's when we shift our sense of self-worth from external to internal validation. Self-determination theory by Deci and Ryan shows that sustainable drive comes from internal and intrinsic meaning rather than external rewards.
This is the most beautiful part of the video. Is the translation from being a mirror reflecting what you think other people want to becoming the lamp shining your own light
rather than external rewards. And external recognition and internal stability are two completely different systems. And perhaps the real shift here is much simpler and much harder. It's trying to transition from please see me to this is how I see. It's in trying to accept who you are as you are, rather than seeing yourself as a reflection in the eyes of others. As silly as it sounds, it's in trying to fall in love with the version of you that exists when you want nothing from the outside world. Perhaps at this point of time, your internal nervous system may no longer be dependent on the gaze of the viewer.
True well-being naturally comes from autonomy, competence, relatedness, none of which require a millions of followers to achieve.
You're not creating to exist. You create from a place where you already do. So maybe the real question is not whether we want to be famous. The real question might be, what would your work look like if you already felt seen and loved? It's simple, but it may be the only way to fix the hole that exists inside of you and me.
The question is life-changing. If we did not need the like, the views, and the fame to feel like we mattered, we would probably create much wider, more honest, and more beautiful things. So my advice for you watching this video is having the awareness. You need to realize that your need to be seen, your need to prove them, I need to prove them, is actually something that cannot fill the void that you have inside of you. You don't need to prove anyone anything. You are who you are, and now from now on you need to start seeing yourself that you have a self-worth, that you are worth it. It doesn't matter what you do, because people from an early age, you may start thinking, oh, I am what I do. Of course you are what you do, but you are not your achievements. You are not the things that you achieve. You are not the car that you have, because this is not your real worth. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave your comments on your thoughts. I think this is a very wide topic, and all of us will have our opinion on it. So I would like to know in the comments, and see you in another video.